Where reality comes to play, the Perception Theory podcast, triggering the woke little snowflakes in 3, 2, 1.
How dare you disrespect me, your country, and your mama?
Get ready to have some reason and common sense hammered into your pathetically thick skulls. Here are Evil Ed and Uncle Reep, your hosts for the Perception Theory podcast.
I love that intro.
Hey, what's going on? I know.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh, what'd you do?
I lost my phone.
Here you go.
Hey, down.
So,
Man down.
uh-oh. Welcome back. We had a little 3-week hiatus there. If you haven't noticed, we're a little tanner than what we were before.
Little Tanner.
Little tanner.
And no, we're not appropriating culture.
No.
I'm not trying to. We're just the sun seems to do that when you're out in it. So.
That's right.
But that was a good time, though.
Yes,
that was an excellent time.
Much needed.
But yeah, well, welcome back, and hopefully, I don't know if anybody's following us on Discord or whatever, because there's got to be, or at least a way that we're announcing like stuff, because we were going to come back next week, but we got in Saturday night
into the freezing rain.
yeah, and so we decided we're going to push it off till this week, because we were like, I know it's kind of bullshit when you say I need to recover after vacation, but that's really what happened.
Yeah, we needed a vacation for the vacation.
Well, it's the whole transition back.
Yes.
You know, because you're like, I mean, bruh, let me tell you something. We were sitting on, we had, and let me just put it this way. So we went down to Cancun. Let me explain something to you. The people that were in the resort, those people worked their ass off.
Yes, they do.
And we made sure that we took care of them. But, I mean, these people worked their ass off. So it was kind of cool to be on the beach and have somebody come and say, hey, do you need something to eat? Need something to drink? And I got a little bougie there, but we made sure we did tip rather well. And but it was just kind of.
Yeah. It's an experience.
It is an experience. That's the first time I've ever had that where I was on somebody like serving me on the beach, which it was nice.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah.
Bushwhackers and chocolate. Banana monkeys.
Banana monkeys. Do you remember what was in them?
It was a chocolate liqueur, a coffee liqueur, banana liqueur, cream, ice. And I think that was about it.
Yeah. And then we added the other, the Bushwhacker had rum in it.
Yeah, we added rum. Usually it's vodka. Yeah, vodka. But we switched it, had them switch it to rum.
Yeah, it was good stuff. It was good. So.
Except for the calories, that kind of.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, you on vacation, man. If you're counting calories, you just ain't. Well, but I will say this. Then when we ate, so we're doing like all fresh fruit. Like fresh shit, not like I'm like straight off the vine. That's how they did it. So we were eating a lot of fresh fruit, a lot of vegetables, that kind of stuff. We did have a taco or two,
right?
But
it's clean.
Yeah,
I mean it's completely different than what we get over here in America. And I know this is kind of petty, but what about that breakfast sausage? It was pork, but it looked absolutely nothing and tasted absolutely nothing like what we get here in America.
It was
unbelievable.
Excellent. And don't forget about the watermelon juice.
Oh my God, yeah, the watermelon juice. Man, I love that. But it was, I mean, the best way to describe it is like, just imagine somebody going out back and just like compressing a couple watermelons, and that's exactly what it was, minus the seeds.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Or somebody just coring a hole, sticking a straw in it, and
that
say,
was it. Yeah.
"There you go."
But of course, if you can find it here, it's going to have sugars and nitrates and God knows what else in it. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not justifying it, but it's like we process for they're processing for that. I mean, they're making it there, whereas we're processing it for across the country and whatever else.
Right.
I get it, but I think I mean, I understand they can't afford to have like more more processing centers to say, hey, we don't have to put all this shit in if we can ship it out. But
Right.
it is what it is. Hey, Roger, how you doing?
Roger.
So yeah, it was good. It was a good time. Very relaxing.
Yes.
And I will just say one more thing about it. So where we were, where we set up all our stuff where we're on the beach, just right to the right of it was one of the docks for the party boats. So they had like, I don't know what, 4, 5, 6 party boats come in. So people were good. So the fun thing about it was when they would go out, go snorkeling. I don't know if they went to an island or something, and partied
Isla
and whatever.
de Mahera.
Yeah. So the funny part is when they came back,
Oh Lord,
there were quite a few people lit up.
Yeah.
And trying to get off that boat, and they are 3 sheets to the wind. Now that was entertainment. So we made sure we were there when they came back, which I think was about 4:30 anyway.
Yeah.
To watch them come off the boat. That was hilarious.
Yeah. One guy looked like he lost his toe.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
That was bad. He couldn't stand up.
yeah, and he lost. He effed something up, but then he was drunk as shit too.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good because you know how it thins the blood. So
Yeah, he wasn't feeling anything at that point.
no. But then we had some older lady come off, and she was lit up.
Oh, what about the argument? That was a good one.
Oh yeah, that's.
Mm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
fun time. So, anyhow, all right. But welcome back again. And so today, we are going to. Oh, and before I know we talked about it before, or we were going to talk about it. We are recording this today, and we decided. Did we decide this week or next week? I can't remember what we decided because it's kind of funky.
Yeah, I mean, we could release it on Wednesday, I think you said, is when, like...
So we do it this Wednesday or next Wednesday. It doesn't really matter.
No.
Because the two shows are completely different.
Right.
So we can let's release it this Wednesday so we can see how it goes.
That sounds
so
like
we're
a plan.
recording this today, and it will be available on Wednesday on Rumble and YouTube. So we're going to upload it because it's not going to be live. And we're going to have a podcast, and I'll let you know and that will be available on Apple and Spotify and all of this stuff.
By the way, this is our high school haircuts that we had. Unfortunately now, for those that don't know us, it's been a long time since we looked like that. So,
oh, and one more funny thing. We're on vacation. There was at least, 4, 5, 6 times.
oh my God.
Somebody came to us and said, are you brothers?
Yeah. And then how about the one that was like, are they sisters?
Yeah. So we actually had a woman ask if we were brothers. And at that point, we had got to the point, like, yeah, we are. Oh, I knew you were. Then they looked at our wives and said, are you sisters? And we're like,
Yeah, what?
why would you?
This isn't sister wives, you know?
This isn't West Virginia where we're marrying all in the family. It's like, why would you even ask that? That's like the dumbest question.
Oh, God.
But
yeah,
anyway.
I wanted to say so bad. It's like, man, you know what? We're here celebrating the fact that my sister is pregnant, and I'm going to be a dad. Could you imagine that?
Oh shit! I don't even know if they were smart enough to pick up on that.
Probably not.
But anyway, and it wasn't a Hispanic woman; it was an American woman.
Yeah, these are American people. Now we
Oh,
did
Lord.
get called ZZ Top, which I thought was pretty fun.
We did. So that was cool. Anyway, so today, like I said, so just be on the alert for Wednesday. You'll see this, and I think probably on Discord.
Okay.
I'll put on I'll put the links on to where you can actually get it on Rumble because it's going to be a different channel. It's not going to be on this channel. But anyway, all right. So that's that, and that's what we're doing afterwards. And I think, and Rodri, since you're with us, I really think you're gonna enjoy this one probably a lot better than this show because this one is completely non-political. It's and like I said, this first episode is going to be about men and whether or not they can or cannot, as far as society is concerned, show their feelings or even have an opinion about something, as far as how they feel about things.
Sure, absolutely.
So
I'm excited.
all right. Oops. Come on. Mouse isn't working. All right. So what we're doing today on this show is I know DOGE, which is Department of Government Efficiency.
Yay.
Which is causing a whole lot of rigmarole and hubbaloo. It's causing a lot of noise around, and people are bitching about having this and having that. But before we get into this, the thing that Ed and I were talking about, which is we find just simply amazing, is you got a lot of people bitching, especially the Democrats, are bitching about they're going in here and and this and that, and they're going in here and going in there and find this and find that, but they never address the waste and the BS that they're finding.
Right. And the core issue of a lot of this, I think we were just discussing too, is kind of interesting. We never get to the core. We just kind of swim through everything else.
And they're like bitch about how they're doing or what they're doing, but they don't address. I have yet one Democrat. I think there might be one or two that actually I'll take that back. But for the most part, none of them are addressing the waste and the bullshit that's coming out of this previous administration. Now, some of the stuff they're finding obviously has been going on
for eons,
for a while. Okay, no problem on that aspect. We find whatever it is, regardless of who's in power. If it's waste away. I mean, believe me, it's not lost on us the fact that Congress is, they scratch each other's backs, right?
And they know, I'm sure, like the older guys know.
Oh yeah,
all this stuff that's going on, and
they say, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll give you that. I'll give you a couple $100 million for that piece of that bullshit. If you let me get a couple $100 million for this piece of crap or this bullshit,
right?
So it's not lost on us that these people that they're not creating deals in the back room.
Right.
We know both sides of that aisle are doing that shit. But this is the first presidency where it's really been called out
and dug into
and presented with evidence.
Right.
So because you can go on, DOGE has a X channel, and they have a website, and you can go and you can look at all of the
discoveries and everything,
all of the receipts. And they're even showing screenshots of the contracts where some of this stuff's going on. So we're going to get into it and explain, and people over in Rodri and people over across the pond may not care so much, but we do, because this is our tax money. And especially in the last administration, I'm going to be honest, where we were taxed all to shit. So, we were taxed heavily, and when you find out where a lot of this money was going, it pissed you off. Now, I'm sure, Rodri and Dynamite, wherever you are.
Hey, Dynamite.
If you were over, I know Rodri's in the UK, and if they come over and start looking at the UK's books and you say, hey, they spent $20 million on a survey for duck ass to see how duck ass floats or some shit, you'll be like, what? So
is it really watertight?
Yeah. So we're going to get into some stuff that's maybe not that goofy, but it's pretty damn close. So anyway, we'll let Evil Ed over here. You want to kick off some of your old crazy shit? You want me to show the graphic, or is that the stuff you're getting into?
Well, let's hold off on that one.
All right.
So, Gary, I mean, I don't know. Like, you went overboard on this stuff, so I just have a few things to point out on the research that Gary did. So one of the first things that Gary found out was the $56 million from FEMA that was allocated to New York City for illegal migrant housing in luxury hotels. I don't think I've really ever been in a luxury hotel.
Not what I would call luxury. And, again, we're not talking Motel 6, or we're not talking about maybe a community center. We're talking, $500, $600, $700 a night hotels where they were putting up illegal immigrants. It was like, bruh, okay, you should have them in like Tent City or somewhere just till we figure out. But you're putting them in. Which, by the way, if you remember, we did a little piece on this.
Yes.
In a previous show where they were showing how the immigrants were treating the place where they were, and they were trashing everything.
Right. Right. And the sad part is it was legal immigrants that jumped through all the hoops, paperwork, all the other stuff that are working in these hotels that have to clean up this shit that
the illegals are doing.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? This is bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
So like you said, $56 million. Now that's just what they pulled back. They had already spent, and that we could not find, as far as exactly how much, but there was a lot more they spent. This is what Noam, what's her name? The head of DHS. This is what she found and pulled back before it got spent. But there was already a bunch that already spent. So.
Sorry, we're just reading Dynamite here.
Trump has stepped back from the Paris Climate Accord. Sad. It's not sad, and I'll tell you why. Because the U.S. had spent billions of dollars, 10 times more than anybody else, and that we are already implementing these efficiencies and stuff that nobody else was seeming to do. Germany sure as hell wasn't jumping on the board. I mean, they're making progress,
right?
But they still had a long way to go, and so many other people did. They weren't putting in a dime, and they didn't. And a lot of the other people that were in the Paris Climate Accord did not have any plans on how they were going to reduce their emissions. But yet, U.S. was supposed to step in, supply the lion's share of the money and everything else, and it was like, guys.
Right. Well, then you have to look at the ones that aren't a part of it, right? Like China. They're not a part of it. And, I mean, God,
and Russia, and they're the ones that are just pumping out all kind of crazy
Absolutely.
shit in the atmosphere.
Yeah, China walks around, most of the people walk around with masks on, the N95 paper mask, because it's filthy over there. The air is horrible.
Yeah.
So with FEMA, they claimed that there was no money left for the flooding in North Carolina. Well, come to find out, there was an audit that was done. The audit was done on January 30th of 2025. They were sitting on $8 million, $8 million with an M, dollars worth of money that could have went towards North Carolina, which did not, because remember, they claimed that they didn't have any money for this. They gave $1.1 billion to a particular state, which is unlisted, for, well, okay, so hold on a second. $1.1 billion to a particular state, it's unlisted, and there's no money breakdown. So that would be like me giving you, 10 grand. I don't care what you do with it. But
and that was FEMA that got rid of it.
That was FEMA. And then the same state, which again is unknown, also had $8 billion with a B in funds that was given to them. But nobody knows what state it is. It's completely unlisted. And again, nobody knows actually what the money was spent on, just the fact that somebody got it.
But one thing we do know, because we've heard the governors, that it wasn't Texas, it wasn't Arizona, and it wasn't New Mexico. Because those are the three major border states that are dealing with the immigrant crisis, but yet they didn't get that money,
and they could have used it.
And they could have absolutely used it. Hey, Judge, how you going? I mean, how you doing? So more than likely, now this is speculation, more than likely that money went to California and or New York.
Ooh.
To supply the housing, or maybe even Chicago. Remember, Chicago was
that's
up.
Right. Yeah, they were.
Chicago was up in arms because they were spending a lot of money on illegal immigrants, and they're like, we got people struggling here in the city.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. So then there was $59 million, and that's what I got. This came out the other day. $59 million to New York for migrant housing after Trump said to halt spending for migrants. So it was a couple days ago, I think it was like 4 or 5 days ago, that there was this big to-do because there were 4 individuals that were fired from FEMA. And this is the reason why. So after Trump said, hey, nope, no more money, these 4 individuals, somebody signed off for $59 million to go to the migrant crisis in New York.
That's a presidential executive order.
And on top of that, if you kind of look back at everything, Eric Adams mentioned something about this prior to him getting indicted, and that was the misappropriation of the funds from FEMA, which, you know, he laid out there plain and simple that I think kind of put him in hot water and also New York in hot water now because of this money.
And because Trump is from there, Trump actually bailed his ass out.
That is correct. Craziness.
They steal crypto. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They evade the blockchain, but also in supply chains they track shit and try to get stuff put in. Yeah, it's a big which we're trying to lock some of that shit down.
Right. All right. So what do we have next? You have your $784 million taxpayer dollars for new U.S. embassy in South Sudan.
Now, if you've ever researched South Sudan is in a constant civil war, this, that, and the other. There's a fight of power, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's the government, and the government's corrupt, and they got the rebels, and the rebels are corrupt, and they're trying, and so it's back and forth. But the point of it is there is absolutely no strategic or economic benefit to South Sudan for the U.S. So the simple fact that they would spend almost $1 billion to put in a U.S. embassy makes absolutely no freaking sense at all. All right? So everybody's like, well, you need to put embassies here and there. Okay, but not in a place that is not strategic at all, which South Sudan is not strategic. And, oh, by the way, I would assume that if we did, it would be like freaking Benghazi, where we're fighting to keep that damn thing safe because people are just. You guys got to look up South Sudan. There's a lot of ethnic cleansing going on there, and it's a freaking shit show.
Yeah.
What's he talking about? Well, Max. Who's Max? I'm not sure who Max is.
Yeah, I don't know who Max is either.
I don't know.
Oh.
What? What?
Why do I feel like I know Max? I think.
Would Max be sad for watching communism become this, or will he be in bliss? I don't know who he's talking about. Who's Max?
Marx.
Oh, Marx. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, Karl Marx.
Oh, gotcha.
So, what do you think?
Well, probably he would be in bliss because this is more of because Karl Marx. Well, let me see. So it just depends. Yes, Dutch. Absolutely. It's a freaking shit show. All Sudan is it's like quicksand. There's no win situation. That you just gotta let people fight that out. That is something we should not ever get in the middle of. It's just a shit show. Karl Marx.
What's your opinion on this?
I would say, well,
I have my opinion.
I don't agree with communism in one shape or another. I would think Karl Marx was more of the worker, as opposed to, say, Stalin and Mao Zedong and all that stuff, where they were just like government just squashed the little man and it doesn't really matter. I think Karl Marx was a little bit more about the worker, getting more of the share, but it just doesn't. There's no way to accurately do that.
Yeah, I think he would be sad, simply because in his version of communism, the way that it worked is the government was for the people. Everybody got an equal share. That's what the original if you read his, I guess, philosophy on that, that's pretty much what it was. Everybody gets an equal share. And unfortunately, just like you stated, that, the people that were in charge basically squander the lives of the people that they rule. So, yeah.
So the only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the big reasons why communism and any type of utopia or socialism or whatever would never work is because you're always going to have greed. Now, people might say, well, capitalism shouldn't work because of greed, but actually it does. Because in capitalism, for somebody to actually make the money, somebody has to be willing to work. And the only way people work nowadays around here is if you give them a job and then they perform their services and then you are paid for that service, and that's a negotiated fee, right? Like in the job I do, I go and I work on a contract. I negotiate what I'm willing to accept as far as pay, benefits, and everything else. And then I would say, okay, I will provide that service for the amount that we've agreed upon. That's what capitalism is. And granted, there's a lot of greedy people in capitalism, but everybody has the opportunity to make something. And that's why capitalism, at least, well, I'm not going to say my opinion. I think it's been proven that it's a better system than anything else. Because even if the greedy get rich, everybody else, or not everybody, but a lot of other people get rich because as people get greedy, they're willing to pay a little bit more to get more.
Right.
So when Marx did that, people were fucked. He just want anything to unfuck themselves. Yeah. Karl Marx was kind of like a utopist almost, and it doesn't work that way because you're dealing with the human condition, right? So you're dealing with greed. You're always dealing with greed. So I know Dutch, guys, Cancun must have been a nightmare. Yeah.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. We were on the beach. And
immigration coming in was kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. When we came in,
yeah,
it was a shit show. There was almost like 4 or 5 fights because people were bumping the line, and it was a shit show. It really was.
And I got reprimanded by people in our party that I was yelling back, like back in high school when you're like, fight, fight, fight in the lunchroom. But, yeah, apparently that's frowned upon.
Yeah, he was trying to incite the whole Cancun Mexican immigrations. Yeah, that was bad.
All right, moving on. So what's this next one that you got there, Gary?
State Department spent $2.1 million on border security for U.S., Mexico, Canada. No, Paraguay. Why? Why does the U.S. give a flying flip about border security in Paraguay? We don't, and nor should we. Now, I would be interested to see if anybody in Congress, I don't know, had some type of investment or interest in maybe a company that is providing border security in Paraguay. That's how you launder money or get money. You don't put something right in front of you. You put it in another country where you can make money on that stuff, and it's not readily exposed, or it doesn't have the spotlight on it. Now, one of the biggest wasters of money is U.S. aid. U.S. aid is, I understand probably the initial reason for it is to provide aid to other countries and stuff. I gotta watch my calculus. What? Watch my calculus. Oh, it must be online.
Okay.
Any tip for you? Yeah, don't take calculus. calculus is a mother. And
Nope.
I'm sorry, I ain't got a tip for you. Get a what do they call it? What's that Texas Instruments? The
that one that like does graphs and things.
yeah,
like
the
that?
graphing calculator, or some shit. I'd get something like that because I'm telling you.
Nope.
Exactly, Roger. It's prayer. I mean, math is kind of a pain in the ass, but calculus is even more so.
Nope.
But thanks for joining us while you could there. Good luck on that.
Yeah, good luck. Have fun.
Shit. But USAID. So USAID gives foreign aid and so forth to other countries. Now the idea of that, the perception of that is good. But again, here's where we run into some serious problems. 20 million. I'm an Indian. Bro, my math is good. He's good. So here we go. $20 million was sent to Iraq to create a Sesame Street show in Iraq. What the fuck? Why did? All right, you know what? That one I can't even. I don't know. I don't even know. $45 million to DEI scholarships in Burma. But Burma.
Well, for 4 years we had DEI like thrown in our faces. Actually, it's been longer than that. So, yeah.
So now we're worried about diversity, equity, and inclusion in other countries, which has nothing to do with the United States.
Right.
But yeah, we're gonna put $45 million of our tax money for DEI scholarships in Burma. What the fuck are we doing? One more, and then I'll hand it over to Ed. Okay, here we go. $520 million for consult-driven environmental, social, and governance investments in Africa. Now, mind you, Africa is where China has bought quite a bit of land and businesses where they have lithium, cobalt, and a bunch of other natural resource, minerals and stuff to make solar panels and batteries. Burma's been called, man, our way longer than Gulf of America got renamed, Yeah. Gulf of America. I will say when we came back from Cancun, our pilot did call it the Gulf of America. But anyway, so in Africa, where they actively have over 700 actual slaves still over in Africa, blacks owning black slaves, but these mines and stuff are owned by China to get the minerals for them to make the batteries and solar panels cheaply. But yeah, we're going to talk about environmental, social, and governance investments instead of addressing the slavery issue. Oh, there you go.
Well, there was another interesting one that you have on here. It's $10 million for the Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcision.
Ooh.
I don't know what the hell that has to do with.
I mean, are you doing population control? Maybe
Yeah, but a circumcision is a circumcision.
Oh, that's right. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of a vasectomy. Sorry. Yeah. So you're.
So this whole USAID thing, or USAID, refer to it as both. I did a little digging on this because I'm like, what the hell is this? So this was actually created by John F. Kennedy in 1961. So going back to that time in 1961, Congress passed the Foreign Assistance Act on September 4th, 1961, which reorganized U.S. foreign assistance programs and mandated the creation of an agency to administer economic aid. The goal of this agency was to counter Soviet Union influences during the Cold War and to advance U.S. soft power through socioeconomic development. You said was subsequently established by the executive order of John F. Kennedy, who sought to unite several existing foreign assistance organizations and programs under one agency. So,
and you know who the biggest recipient of that was, or at least we tried to try to give aid? It's Cuba. And that turned out to be
the Bay of Pigs.
a shitload. Yeah, after that, then we said, oh, the Bay of Pigs will, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, that didn't go too well. So one of the other things that you have listed down here, I was kind of looking at the bigger numbers. So you have listed $486 million to the consortium of elections and political process strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million for voter turnout in India. So, challenge accepted. So I went and I looked up what the voter turnout for India was. So in 2024, it was 65.79%. So was that actually worth $21 million? We don't know. So then I also figured, well, you know what? I just want to see, how Moldova actually comes out here. So I did the same thing, voter turnout. And in 2024, that turnout was 53.34%. And that is the nation as a whole, men, women.
What was it? Did you see what it was before that?
Oh, it was in like the 30s and the 40s. So it wasn't like a huge gain. I think I want to say it was like 43 or 47% in 2020. So,
and that benefits U.S. how?
Well, it's $486 million, I guess, that somebody had to spend somewhere. Use it or lose it.
So, when we have all the Democrats, leftists, whatever, that say voter ID is discriminatory, and not being able to send mail-in ballots is discriminatory. So we couldn't have spent. All right, let's go down that road. Even though I don't agree,
I see where this is going.
We couldn't have spent $486 million to have people go in, get their IDs, and even have transportation to take them into the polls. Genius. If we were going to go that way, if we were going to go down that route. No, we're going to send it a shitload to India and Moldova.
Because they matter how?
Oh, fucking. It's so stupid.
Gotta love it.
Let's see what else we got here. $40 million for gender equality and women empowerment.
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I was going to say women are being oppressed. Not that I remember that. I think because if you remember, we did like one of our first shows. We talked about how women were actually running most of
big corporations.
Yeah.
And own
as
their
a whole
own business.
Their
and
businesses.
Own their own businesses.
They're like 78% of the not funding, marketing. They make 80% of the choices as far as buying, even in the household, and all this other shit. So, anyway, go ahead.
So, on back to the consortium. So that actually, if please look it up. I please want you to. CEPPS. You ready for this? Website is currently unavailable. It's there, but there's a big block on it that says website is currently unavailable.
Not even that.
What else we got?
What else we got? Let's see. Here you go. $29 million to strengthen the political landscapes in Bangladesh. And we care how? The political landscape? Because I can tell you this. I forget what it is in India. The prime minister or the president or whatever they call him. He's a big Trump fan.
It sounds like a Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Which I didn't research that, but apparently Skankboat, Hillary's daughter, got like $80 million for some research something, which they financed through the Clinton Foundation. Anyway, $19 million for diversity conversation in Nepal.
So let's talk about it. That was just worth $19 million. Let's have a conversation.
Maybe keep them out of the influence of China and Russia. Well, okay, let's walk down that one, Dutch. I might even probably agree with you. But at the end of that day, we still were putting in a shitload of money into the UN and this and the other, like I said, to protect these people from Russia and China and all this other stuff. But yet Germany kept buying all their energy from Russia. So if they're not supposed to be involved in the influence, and now I know we're talking about India and Bangladesh and shit. I'm still trying to get 2 and 2 to make 4. So, India is not the biggest China friend at the moment, as far as I know. You're right, because actually India, like I said, the president or whatever, I guess he's prime minister. I'm not sure what he'd call, but he's a big Trump fan, and he was one of the first ones that, because as a matter of fact, he just came visited Trump last week. He's one of the first ones to jump over and go meet Trump.
Yep.
Diversity crap is rubbing people the wrong. Yeah, it is. It's like something we had a discussion here at work. Let me just throw this out real quick, and we'll move on. So we had this discussion at work, and I said, and I asked them, and this is my group, which I have a bunch of minorities that work in my group. So I said, in what other country on the planet do you have a makeup of people? Let's talk about black people, let's say in the U.S., which in the U.S. make up approximately 15% of the total population. It varies from 15 to 18%. Okay, let's just see. You know what? Let's just bump it up. Let's go 20. Okay, but where in the world do you have 20% of a population have so much influence and so much opportunity in a country other than the U.S.? All right. All the commercials, they're 50%. There's black people in damn near 50, 60, 70% of them. You only make up like 15% of the population, but they're everywhere. Jay-Z, right? You're talking the Super Bowl, one of the biggest things ever. Jay-Z and his company has the halftime show, and if I'm not mistaken, how many minorities have been in the past? Have been in the past Super Bowl halftime? As far back as I can remember. So there you go. Football players, basketball players. If we're doing the diversity, so basketball is 80-some% black. Well, if we were so racist, we would say, okay, we're going to cut that down to 15%, because that's all the population you make up. Bruh, we had a black president. We had a black vice president. Well, she's supposed to be black. Anyway, the point what I'm trying to make is, you have a population that makes up less than 20%, but yet they have such an overwhelming influence, in society and social, in social things, events and stuff. So where else are you going to get that? So it's like, well, how much more diversity do you need? That's basically what I'm trying to get at. It's like, every sport's dominating with blacks, maybe except for baseball. And you got a lot of Hispanics, and soccer, and maybe hockey. But most of the high value or the highest paying sports, well, especially basketball.
Right.
Basketball has some insane contracts, but 80% black. So I'd like to bow you on that one. If you see an ad here for a government job, good luck finding a white person in there. Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't need diversity. Oh, unless Dutch is saying they need diversity on the other side.
Ah.
Is what I'm getting from that, at least. Yeah, I know. And and again, I'm like, and nobody wants to take into consideration, and again, I'm not banging on blacks here, right? But still, people want to don't take into consideration the simple fact that if you have a certain percentage of a racial group, all right, not everybody performs the same way, right? So, for instance, talk about Asians. Asians operate on a much higher, plane. They're more successful in education, all that shit, right? So when you take a percentage of the Asian population, a lot of them are higher achievers. Well, in some other demographics, not so much. So you can't put, and I'm going to be completely honest, let's just say blacks or Hispanics don't operate at the same level that Asians do. So you're not going to have the percentage of population that they represent in, say, some of the C-suites or some of the higher paying jobs because they don't perform as well. But nobody wants to see that shit. Or nobody wants to talk about that. They're like, oh, no, we should be getting diversity across the board. Everybody should be equal. Nope, not everybody performs equal. I mean, there's a lot of people more intelligent than I am. I shouldn't just be thrown in there with them. Said, well, let's put them in there. So,
my theory is I don't care if you come from Mars, you're purple. If you can do the job, do it.
Do it. And we shouldn't be making concessions for people who aren't making the mark.
Right.
Except saying maybe we should go back a little lower and say, why aren't they? And then addressing that issue, which comes to education.
Right.
Right.
So I do like the one that you have, 1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia.
Yeah, we need voter confidence in Liberia.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd want to go to Liberia.
Yeah. Well, of course, so many of these countries are dictator-driven. So voter confidence. Okay, well, I'm going to go vote, but it's not going to really matter. They're going to
right.
They're going to stage the damn thing where the dictator is the one that gets like Maduro down there in Venezuela.
I vote for you. Oh, you.
Well, I voted for him, but when it came out, it was for him. Don't know how that happened.
If you're a white man,
you're a racist a-hole, according to a certain percentage of the people. I know we had slave trade. I know we had coldness. All happened centuries before us. But yeah, but it doesn't matter because that somehow made an issue to where people can't achieve what they can in today's society, which is completely bullshit theory. It's tough to pay people and apologize, and apologies that never suffered. Yes. Dutch, it's the same shit over here, my friend. Not the government, but me personally. Yeah. Well, now we have things where they're looking for, now the big push for Democrats, especially the squad, the scabs, is reparations. That's the new wagon they've jumped on, is reparations for people who never suffered slavery, especially like in California, who didn't have slaves. Not only some slaves probably moved out there, or way back in the day, or descendants from slaves. But California and most of the West didn't have slavery, but now they're wanting those states to pay reparations.
I say pay it. Let's just get it over with. Break it down per person, pay it, and I would be curious to see how much of that money gets put back into the economy.
Well, all of it, because I guarantee it be spent like that. Might sound a little asshole-ish, but I'll guarantee they're not going to hold on to it. People aren't going to hold on to that kind of money.
Right.
They're going to drop in that shit left and right.
So you also have NASA, who spent $500,000 on Politico subscriptions. So what do you think? Like, I was thinking, and we had this discussion before we started, I was thinking maybe, you know, for the subscriptions being the fact, like, I work in the jewelry industry, and one of the companies that I work for would actually get magazines. They'd have subscriptions to certain magazines that had to do with jewelry, and we would each get those magazines. So I was kind of wondering if maybe that was it.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I guess I'm trying to figure out the connection, or what the connection would be between NASA and Politico, because Politico is not like a space oriented. It's a news. Actually, it's kind of a left leaning news organization, and a lot of their stuff is not. Well, it's kind of reporting. I don't know if I would actually call it news, but it's definitely left leaning. Politico is, and so they're kind of a leftist action group. They do try to influence things, but again, NASA could spend whatever they want. Just not my tax money.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Is don't spend my fucking tax money. You want to spend whatever. It's like the whole damn thing with Planned Parenthood. I know we're going to tag it, but to have billions of my money go to Planned Parenthood, no. Ask for donations, but not federal tax money. Rat bastards.
So you had an interesting one here for the NIH. What did you come up with that one?
So the NIH, well, they're spending shit left and right, like it's water. They had $9 billion
with a
B, but used for administrative overhead and indirect costs.
Remember that slide that I had?
Yeah.
This is for it. Nope. Where'd it go?
Beep.
There it is.
Let's see, where is that? That's the picture. Where's the pics? It's unlocked, right?
So this is kind of an overview of everything. Oh, shoot, we didn't download the NIH thingy. So this is an overview pretty much of what we're going over. I apologize. I had a not so good image. It was kind of pixelated, so that's why we didn't put that one up there. My bad on that one.
Yeah. Sorry, Roger, that's National Institutes of Health. Supposed to be like medical research, stuff like that. They're supposed to kind of help. Well, there's a lot of stuff that they're involved in, but they're supposed to kind of help in consulting with, or consulting for, like the CDC and other health organizations or whatever.
Right.
And yeah.
Which the CDC, sorry to cut you off, the CDC is actually upset on this one, which I kind of get. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that it was the administrative overhead, the indirect cost is what we were looking at. So what I found on this one is 15% indirect cost rate will now apply to all new and existing grants. NIH said in a memo, its director's office, typically about 30% of an average NIH grant to an institution is earmarked for indirect cost, according to NIH notice, but some universities get much higher rates. In 2023, NIH, the world's largest funder of biomedical research, spent nearly $9 billion on indirect costs, and that was... The change would likely leave research institutions needing to find billions of dollars from other sources to support laboratories, students, and staff. So that's where that indirect overhead costs come from. So I guess not only are they providing a grant to certain colleges for students, but I guess they also have to not only pay for that, but they have to make sure that they have all the microscopes and all the software and computers and everything else in order for those students to be able to fulfill their grant.
Yeah, but they spend it on indirect costs, which they have no line items for.
Right.
So that you could track to say, okay, here's where the money's going. Maybe we need to put more money in scholarships and or grants.
Right.
But we have no idea because it's just quote unquote indirect costs.
Right.
And let me tell you something. If you're spending $9 billion on administrative overhead, brother, you ain't running a successful organization. I'll tell you that right now.
That's scary.
They also spent $759 million on workforce diversity and outreach.
And that was from NIH.
No, we couldn't give, say, universities grants for cancer research or even COVID research or any of this stuff.
Right.
No, we're going to spend it on diversity and outreach. Now, this is not such a big thing, but $611,000 on evaluating microaggressions among Latino individuals with obesity.
So
why are overweight Latinos pissed off? We're going to spend $600,000 on trying to
we need to
research that.
We need to spend that money on individuals here in America because there are a lot of people that are overweight and obese. 600-pound life. You should watch those.
And Dutch, I agree with you. It's a good idea, but as long as you have where it needs, then you need to implement a federal policy and a little more regulations on where the money's going after you find it. So I agree with you. I think it's a good thing, but yeah, you got to pull the reins in at some point to say, okay, here's how our policy is going to be of how we're going to move from this point on. There should be some people evaluating whatever contracts go out. But just firing people on a whim. So they're not really firing people on a whim. What they're doing, well, the four that he mentioned, yeah, because they were violating federal policy.
Right.
That you got to fire. But there's so many. Let me put it this way: over here in the U.S., there are so many open jobs in the commercial space. Maybe not government, but the commercial space. We have more jobs than we can fill. And I'm not talking about like bricklaying. I'm talking about like good jobs like research, cyber, all this stuff. That I think if you're going to pull people or shrink some of these government agencies or groups, that these people can definitely, if they're worth their weight in salt, like know what they're doing, could provide some definite value on the commercial side, which the government does work with commercial companies and so forth and so on. But like IRS, which is like, I don't know, was it like 300 and some billion a year? Flat tax, whack 'em all.
So you also have a good one too for the Social Security Administration. What do you got on that one? It was for the checks.
So the Social Security Administration last year alone spent $1.3 billion
with a B
on Social Security checks to dead people. People no longer alive, but they spent the money on the checks. So is the money just sitting there? No, the money was spent. Now, where do you think, well, if somebody's dead, they're obviously not spending the money. So where do you think that money went? Well, apparently, you probably, relatives or whatever were cashing these checks and shit like that. But that's $1.3 billion in 1 year gone.
Yep.
For dead people.
Yeah. So something interesting I found, and something that just came up this week or the week that we were away, DOGE actually announced that there is a mine shaft in Pennsylvania, which is in Boyer, Pennsylvania. I knew about this since I was a kid. My mom worked for Social Security. She did like internal affairs and things like that. And she would go there, I think like once a year or once every couple of years, just to see what was going on and so on and so forth. So what she told me is that there are documents that were stored for security in this mine shaft. So it's been here for God knows how long.
Decades.
And the purpose of this to have it down there would actually be that it would be safe even under a nuclear strike in the U.S. Now, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but God forbid if there was ever a nuclear strike in the United States, the last thing I would ever think about is going down in a tunnel to grab my Social Security paperwork just in case I make it through this thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I found out is that Social Security is only able to process 10,000 people retiring each month, and it's only 10,000. And do you know why? There's an elevator, one elevator, that goes up and down this shaft. Now, I don't know how big it is, how deep it goes, or anything, but they're limited, right? They're limited on this shaft. So if it breaks down, then guess what? We can't help you. So one of the thoughts that should pop into people's heads that are listening to this is, what the hell does a mine shaft have to do with anything? Well, it's all paperwork.
Physical.
All physical paperwork that is handled by Social Security. Everything is documented on paper. None of it has anything to do with anything being computerized, anything saved in a cloud or a secured network or anything like that. So again, this 10,000 people limitation per month also falls into that paperwork, which also depends on that shaft, that elevator. So if the elevator again breaks down or it can't go as low or whatever, that's our limitation for the 10,000 people, plus of all the paperwork and everything else that needs to get filed and gone over through and all the other good stuff. Now, also mentioning about the checks that went to dead people, there are payments that go out to dead people so far that have been up to 150 years old. So they've been mailing checks out to people that have been dead that are now reaching the age of 150 years old.
They've been long dead.
They've been long dead.
They're gone. So
one of the interesting facts also looking at this is there is a list that, let's say that so-and-so died 10 years ago. We found out his information in 2024. So that list obviously grows all the time. Mm-hmm. The problem is that it doesn't get checked right away. So that list will grow up to a year it would take for, Mr. Jones that passed away in 1985, who's still been receiving these checks before the government, Social Security, is like, oh, yeah, we shouldn't be paying this guy.
Well, that's even if they're checking,
right,
on a periodic, on a frequency that they're checking that like every month or whatever, which they're not doing.
Right. I have a feeling it's one of those things, and again, it's my opinion, that it's, you know what? Shit. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you go over that list for me? You remember the list that I was telling you about? Do you mind going over that?
I got something going on. I ain't got time for that shit.
So yeah.
I got to trim my toenails in the office.
No, you got to get that paperwork down that shaft.
That's right. Elevator ride.
That's right.
So Dutch, to answer some of your questions. So I know you asked, they're going to take it apart and stuff. Do you trust them? Well, that's a funny question, because right now we're finding out we're spending hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in some of the waste we just told you. So when it comes down to a trust thing, well, I tell you the one thing I don't trust is the government. Now, I know that's what DOGE is doing, but they're exposing it, and what they're also doing is it's not like they're just kind of making it up. like I said, you can go on their website and on Twitter or X, and they're showing you the actual contracts and everything where this money is coming from. So this money is legitimately going out. Why the hell they're sending billions of dollars to other countries for whatever else, I don't know. I don't want my tax money to go to that shit unless it's for humanitarian aid or something like that.
Right. So
second, so to answer Roger's question, so it is a government agency, but it was created through an executive order. So it was established that way. And one might say, well, shouldn't that go through Congress in this, to put that into a law and stuff? Well, part of the problem is Congress is the people who are putting all this, who are throwing this money in other countries and bullshit. They're the ones that are doing it. So to have them kind of police themselves up, that's a little conflict of interest.
Right.
Right. Because here's my question: why has Congress not why they have not passed term limits? You got Nancy Pelosi, that skank. She's been in damn Congress for freaking what, 30, 40, 50, whatever the hell years?
I think she's on that 150-year people list.
So why have they done term limits? Why have they not passed a flat tax to where there's no tax loopholes, there's no tax shelters, everybody pays the same, and everything else? Why haven't they passed that? Why have they passed term limits? Because these are the people who are doing this shit, and unfortunately, they're not going to police themselves up, or they're not going to screw they're not going to screw themselves.
Right.
So that's why DOGE is at least important at this time. But I agree with Dutch. We need to evaluate this stuff, but not go unleashed for too long. Right. So that I absolutely wholly agree with you.
Well, the other thing I'm just kind of thinking of as well.
Who polices up DOGE? Trump.
That's a good one. Speaking of 150-year-old people.
So Trump's the only one. Well, so there's obviously a lot of things that DOGE cannot do because it's against the Constitution or federal law. So Trump has given them the ability to go into and evaluate these records, but they can't. There's things they can't do. They can't go into people's personal records, no matter what. Some of the media is saying they're going into you can't go into people's personal records, like my taxes and stuff. Like DOGE and stuff cannot go into my personal tax and stuff like that and work that. That's against federal law, and that's against the Constitution. And there's a lot of stuff that's against the Constitution. But like Roger, I know he hates Trump, but they've gotten away with this for decades and decades and decades. So if nobody's out there looking at them, they're just going to keep going, and that's billions of my money. That's my money. I don't care what everybody else fucking says. That's my fucking money. I work hard for my fucking money, and I don't want it to go to Mozambique and freaking Bangladesh. I mean, God forbid, whatever. But hey, or I don't want to go to have illegal immigrants go set up in a fucking luxury hotel. I'm sure, I'm busting my ass to pay my fucking rent and shit and my mortgage and stuff. Why don't you ask me where it goes, and maybe I'd be willing to donate a lot.
Well,
but instead of just taking my shit and just chucking it across in other fucking countries where nobody gives a shit and nobody knows where it's going.
Well, my thought on this is, if you remember, and I think I printed one out. We had another podcast on this, but there was a law that somebody was trying to pass. They were presenting this to the I can't remember if it was the Republicans or the Democrats, but anyway, it was like 1,000 pages. Now,
is that the oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Who the hell is going to read 1,000 pages, especially when I give it to you, I don't know, today, and we're going to put it into law on Friday.
Yeah,
so
that was the budget they were going to try to implement for instead of the continuous resolution.
Yes.
To keep the government from shutting down.
Right. But what the hell does that take 1,000 pages? So I'm wondering if, and again, just my thought, is if some of these things are being thrown in there and, it's kind of one of those things that you have to speed read. And I'm sure that they have staff that goes over this stuff that get thrown in here that just happens because somebody had to approve this shit. And I seriously doubt if there's one person that, we're going to do this. I don't think so. These three sound good.
Yeah. And you have Democrats and Republicans. They're both putting pork. They're both putting shit into here and pork. It's just like when you see them, when it's on from election, and they'll say, "Oh, Ed over here, Ed didn't vote to Ed voted against funding the military." All right. But if you look at it, Ed said, "I'm not voting for that bill because there's let's just say $10 for the military, but there's $20 for DEI or to put something in some other country or to do this or do that." He's like, I can't vote for that because you got twice as much going to bullshit. Take that shit out and let's vote on the military bill and I'll fund the military. But that's what they do. They play these fucking games, and both sides do it. And they play these damn games where they put their little pork shit in there. Somebody says, "I'm not voting for that." And they're like, "Oh, look, you hate old women, or you want people to die, or this and the other." I was like, well, no, hold, time the fuck out.
Right.
You got all the extra bullshit in there. And it's just like, but that's how both sides play it. It's just a pain in the ass. And I understand, some people are like, "Oh, Trump's doing this, doing that." But sometimes you need a nuclear option.
Right.
You need to break that shit up because everybody's in this good old boy system, and you got Republicans and Democrats in the establishment, these old bastards that are trying to keep their shit and be in Congress for 5,000 years and come out being making $200,000 a year, but then they come out at their term and they're worth $100 and some million dollars.
Yeah.
How the fuck does that work?
And I truly believe that there are people, senators, that when they get elected, they stand for what they stand for, and they want to make a difference. And I'm sure that the first day that Congress gets together, hey, man, I'm going to need to see in my office. And they have the bigwigs of the Democrats or whatever party, and they sit there and they explain to them, this is how this game is going to be played. So you got two choices. You're either in or you're out. And that's what I could see happening.
And that happens a lot.
So with that being said, you have Trump, who, other than being a millionaire, has no skin in the game. He wasn't a Republican. He wasn't a lifelong Democrat. He was nothing. He was a businessman. And now he's running this country as a company. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody tried to do this before, years ago, and they didn't even make it. And I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He looked like the guy from Purdue back in the day. What the hell was his name?
Oh,
he was a multimillionaire.
Perot?
Yes, Ross Perot.
Ross Perot.
Yeah, and you go by, and he never went anywhere. So I'm curious to see, to look back and what if someone that was a true businessman that knows how to handle money would have been in the office all those years ago, where would we be at now?
Yeah, but just to springboard off that, Rodri. So Trump is not actually policing DOGE. DOGE is policed by the Constitution, Justice Department, and there's federal judges that if they feel if DOGE is doing something that's unconstitutional, which i.e. is infringing on the civil rights of Americans or whatever, then they slap a cease and desist on them if they consider that of whatever they're doing to be not along the lines of what we've outlined in our Constitution. So there's many other checks and balances. It's not just Trump saying, yeah, go do that, go do this. They actually present what they're going to do first, And then, well, and I guess people can time in and say, well, you could do this. You can go in here in this agency and look at that, but you can't look at this.
Right.
But if you had Congress doing it, Congress would say, don't look at anything.
Right.
Don't look at anything. Don't look into here. Don't just stay out of there. Don't open the drawer. Don't open the closet. We're going to continue to run this way.
Right. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, too, is that Elon Musk has got contracts with particular portions of the government. So that's another thing that they keep an eye on as well.
Correct. And it's not within his best interest to expose stuff because then he could be costing himself money.
Right.
But he's been exposed, especially he's digging into NASA, which SpaceX supplies the booster rockets for NASA, and he's already digging into NASA and saying this is that and the other. So he could have potentially screwed himself if he had a lot of shady business dealings because he just exposed himself.
Right.
But he could just say, yeah, well, we'll leave that one alone because I got business dealings over there.
Right. And then you got Starlink.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's many, many things that could set off tripwires and things like that. So one of the last things that, Gary, you found was the Department of Agriculture. This one was $9 million, including contracts for Central American Gender Assessment Consultant Services. This is from the Department of Agriculture. So again, me being me, I got to look this up. So I went to their website, and their mission statement is, we provide leadership on food, agriculture, natural resources, rural development, nutrition, and related issues based on public policy, the best available science, and effective management. Now, that's directly off of their website, and it's literally on the header underneath of Department of Agriculture. You can look it up yourself. So I guess my question is what the hell does the Central American Gender Assessment Consultant Services have to do with agriculture? That's nine.
Are they trying to figure out the gender of a wheat chaff or a corn cob?
I don't know, but that's $9 million. $9 million that's being spent on this stuff. And then, again, I go back to the first thing that we talked about was FEMA. I mean, here's people that are in North Carolina that are still at a loss, right? Trying to find places to live, trying to find food, things like that. I mean, even the bare necessities is taking a damn shower. And all this money that we're talking about, not one penny has gone to them other than the fact that whatever FEMA had before they ran out of money, and this is what they got. And let alone on top of that, again, going by the audit that was done on January 30th of this year, that they had $8 million that they were sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I have a big issue with this.
So all right, Rodri. So I'm curious. What would you consider qualifications to run a country? Now, if somebody's just a straight business person or whatever, whatever, I would probably agree with you. But Trump has met with many countries and did a lot of deals and this and the other. So what would you think is qualifications to run a country? I'd be curious. Because if one of them would be, say, being in politics, that just means you can lie well. If maybe another one is being in Congress, well, here is part of the problem we're having within Congress because they couldn't run a lemonade stand, much less a fucking country. So right there, that almost disqualifies everybody from Congress. So I'm just curious as to what you would think being an elected official really. Well,
yeah,
possibly, but an elected official is only good as the information that the people have on them.
Right.
Because now we have a somebody in Congress. Is she in the House or Senate? Named AOC, who was a fucking bartender, Now, how the hell she got fucking elected, I mean, or why they voted for her, and she's as dumb as a bag of hammers, and she had no freaking experience whatsoever, but these dumbasses got a hold of her and elected her. Why, how, or whatever, I don't know.
Yep.
So, I mean, I understand exactly where you're coming from on it, but and the problem I have with that is official, being elected official, because so many of these jackasses, I swear, it's just like, I mean, like for instance, where did Kamala Harris come from? If you looked at her,
yes.
she was a prosecutor, okay, and she was elected. She was dumb as a bag. She didn't know shit. She looks a lot better than Nancy Pelosi, let's face it. Well, she does. Well, so does everybody else.
Oh.
But she's dumb as shit. I mean, she doesn't know squat. But so if no one is qualified, what makes the DOGE any different? I will look forward to how it all plays out. What are Higgs's qualifications for his job then? Oh, Higgs? Well, he was in the military. He was a commander in the military for, I want to say 15 years or something like that. Did a lot of overseas. But again, you could stick it to say, okay, so somebody doesn't, let's just say somebody doesn't qualify for that unless you have 30 years, let's just say. Because then you get into like General Miley over there, who was one of the ones that orchestrated the freaking Afghanistan withdrawal. And I would go back to say, you don't know your ass from a fucking hole in the ground. And he was a fucking general. And I said, you're a fucking idiot. It's a challenging course to navigate to define who's qualified and who's not. We've had plenty of people who were quote unquote qualified, at least on paper, but once they got in, I mean, like Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Holy shit, did she fuck that job up? Oh my gosh. And people thought she's one of the most qualified people on the planet. She royally fucked that job up. So I don't know. It's I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I do not have the answer that says this person's qualified. It's like Barack Obama. What qualified him to ever even run? He was a community organizer, was in the Senate, I think, for one term, and all of a sudden the Democrats put him up on the pedestal to say he should be president. His resume was blank as shit. Is he qualified? I didn't think he was qualified. I don't know.
So
that's a tough road to navigate.
I know that, our maxim for this show is all about truth and backing up our findings with, our truth with hard-earned evidence. Hardened evidence, not hard-earned. Hardened evidence. That too. So I'm going to throw something out there, which is against our maxim.
Oh, shit.
So this idea came to me when I started looking at your research with all this money. Now, the first thing that popped into my head, and I didn't do my research on this, but I'm sure you're going to know. Years ago, when Barack Obama was in office, there was first off, his biggest thing, and all the presidents always said that, we do not have negotiations with terrorists. Mm-hmm. So back again to President Obama, there was this. Oh, jeez. I hate.
Well, that's the Chinese. They gave you something.
Hello. It's these damn sausage sticks.
I told you not to eat them.
Okay. So Barack Obama did this press conference that we don't negotiate with terrorists. So all of a sudden, and I think he did this like within a week or two, there were, I think it was Iran, Iraq, I don't remember, Afghanistan, where there were hostages that were released to the United States.
Yeah.
And my understanding was, and this is coming from these people that were hostages, is they sat on a plane on a tarmac. There was another plane that flew in that basically parked beside them. And the ramp lowered, and they literally pulled out pallets full of money.
Mm-hmm.
And but once the terrorists saw the money, they didn't count it, but they saw the money. They released these hostages off of that original plane, put them on the plane that just delivered these pallets, and they flew off. So they wanted money, and I forget what country they wanted the money in. It wasn't U.S. dollars. It was something else. I can't remember what it was. But they actually emptied bank accounts, like in Switzerland and things like that, to get whatever this money was.
Mm-hmm. And
again, it wasn't U.S. dollars. We would have did that ourselves. So it was like rubles or something. I don't remember. What if a lot of these are bogus? What if, looking at the whole CEPP, the Consortium for Elections and Political Process, that's $486 million. And then you have the $520 million for consultant-driven ESG environmental blah, blah, blah investments in Africa. So you look at these big numbers and you start to add them together. And what if these monies were going to, like, again, back in Afghanistan, where we would hire black ops, things like that, outside. We would have them go to Afghanistan, and they would work in certain arenas with the Afghani people, or Pakistan, whoever, and they were dropping off canvas bagfuls of money. Do you remember reading anything about that?
Yeah. Well, yes.
What if these, fundings were involved in some of that, like a continuation of, okay, so, Pakistan, if you guys continue doing this and holding up your end of the bargain, we're going to give you X. What's your thought on that?
So, well, part of what you're saying about that, it was Barack Obama did send it out. It was $1.8 billion, and it went to Iraq.
Right.
Or Iran, sorry. And it was quote unquote part of the deal for the Iran nuclear deal, that supposedly we were going to help them out, with other stuff if they quote unquote supposedly reduce their uranium and plutonium enrichment so they couldn't make nuclear weapons. That they somehow in negotiations somehow said we'll do that and go ahead and give you $1.8 billion, which Obama sent there on pallets. And I'm not sure which currency it was. But Iran did not stop any of their enrichment, so they kept making nuclear weapons during the whole time. As far as payments to other countries, say for intel or information, that doesn't go through the government, or not the government. That doesn't go through agencies. That is something that nobody ever sees, and that's not touched. And I know that's probably kind of counterintuitive to what we're talking about as far as where the money goes. But that money, it goes through certain agencies that a lot of the time, or depending on what it's for Congress doesn't even see it, or for a few select Congresses. I think if it's I forget which committee it is that have a certain clearance. You have to be read on once you get on this committee. You get read on to a certain clearance, and then you're able to see that money, that kind of stuff. So the money that goes for intel and or to pay something off or whatever else, that money is not usually identified in there, even if it was for a, say, quote unquote cover. Say if they say, okay, we're sending $100 million over to wherever to study cow farts. Okay, they still wouldn't put that in a kind of a shell line item.
Okay.
To send that over. What you're seeing is probably what exactly is happening. Now you might get something vague, as if to say, "Oh, we're going to send $100 million over to Iraq for discretional funds." Okay, it won't tell you that it's for this or that. It'll just say discretional funds, and then that's all it's going to say. If it was to go through any of this stuff, which usually most of that stuff does not.
Okay.
It goes kind of through a different channel, if that makes any sense. So it wouldn't be hiding some of that stuff. And at the end of the day, they have found out, or most of the times have found out, that even given certain countries, regimes, money, still does not answer the mail. So if, like, say, for instance, if we were to, like, for instance, we gave Iran the $1.8 billion, and it was supposed to be for this and the other, and you guys stay off of this and the other. They didn't stop for 1 second. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even let the inspectors in their nuclear.
I remember that. That's right.
And that was supposed to be part of the deal.
Right.
They said, no, you're not going in there. And Barack said, okay, whatever. So the 1.8 still did not do what. That's why Trump's like, we don't negotiate with terrorists, or we don't negotiate with terrorist-type countries, because it doesn't work. They'll do whatever the hell they want and whatever else. And the only thing that, like, Trump negotiated with was when we were starting to withdraw before the Afghani would start. Right. He went to the Taliban or Al-Qaeda and said, look, we're going to start pulling some people out. If you harm one hair on an American's head, and that's where he was in the room and handed over the picture of the head of Al-Qaeda, his house. He handed him the picture of his house in a satellite image. And he said, I'll kill you, your family, and everybody else that you know or love if one American is harmed as we're withdrawing. And not one person ever got harmed in 18 months after that. He didn't negotiate. He just said, here's what it is. So, So it's crazy. It's whatever, but usually like that, they can't hide, because then at that point, so
what you're saying, there's a paper trail. If something like that was to happen, there's a paper trail. So, but saying what you're saying is that there wouldn't be a paper trail. There'd be no way to track it.
There would be, but it wouldn't be just sitting in, say, the Department of Agriculture or Department or NIH or whatever else.
Okay.
It would be in another channel that only some people within Congress who are read in and have that clearance would be able to see. Because at the end of the day, even in war, let's just say that we said, okay, we sent a bunch of money to Iran for this, that, and the other, for intel, to stop nuclear weapons and this and the other, and then all of a sudden we find out that they have a bunch of nuclear weapons, and let's just say we go and bomb them for or whatever. Then the government can go back and say, well, we sent this because this was the agreement. They reneged on that agreement, blah blah blah. But they have something they can go back to that says whenever that information becomes unclassified, because it becomes classified after 25 years, right, ultimately, or they can declassify it earlier. Then at that point, it's just kind of like with Trump saying we're going to declassify like JFK files. So something like that. Then they can go back and say, oh, we bombed Iran in whatever because here's why, and they reneged on that deal, and then a bunch of American troops were killed because they reneged on it and whatever else.
Gotcha.
So they have like channels, but yeah, it doesn't go through this kind of stuff because, well, this is probably going to make not a lot of sense. But so congressionally and stuff, and I know this happens, but supposedly as far as tax money and this and the other, as far as the Constitution, they're not allowed to supposedly quote unquote lie to the American people where that money's going.
Okay.
Now they've done it where they said some discretionary fund or like NIH where they say overhead and incidental. Okay, that's bullshit, but whatever. But when it comes to type of influence with other countries or paying people off or this and the other, that's supposedly supposed to be recorded. Now it's not to the general public, but it's something that they can go back to at some important time, whether they want to declassify or it's declassified by the 25-year
Gotcha.
whatever, they can go back and say, oh, okay, here's why that happened, or here's what that was, or this and the other. So,
All right.
it's he's trying to negotiate with Putin without involving the Ukrainians now, though. And the reason that is because Ukrainians are absolutely 100%, well, you're not going to like this. The Ukrainians, or the Ukrainian government is corrupt, if not more corrupt than freaking Russia. So all of the billions and billions of dollars that the U.S. has sent over to Ukraine has not been put in the war effort. They're finding that out stuff too. And Zelensky is not doing what he said he's doing, and he's still coming for more money. And he's not. So, yeah. So Trump's like, okay, I can't sit there and have Zelensky in there running his mouth when I'm trying to deal with the big dog, because he's going to keep yapping and he's going to piss him off. And then I'm not going to be able to get anything done to shut this shit down.
Right.
Right. And that's so, yeah. So unfortunately, Ukrainian government is as corrupt as whatever. And that's even if you look at Biden, even Biden had problems dealing with Ukrainians because they were so corrupt. And that's what he said,
Right.
I won't give you any of your funding unless you whack that prosecutor,
Right.
who's investigating my son.
And that worked out. Corruption.
Yeah, but Roger, you're not understanding how shit works. Putin is a piece of shit. He's a terrorist. But the point is, Zelensky could say all he wants. Putin is the one that Trump needs to deal with to tell him to shut the shit off. He's the one that invaded. Now, Zelensky's going to come up with all kind of concessions that he wants that Putin is just going to say, I'm not dealing with it. So Trump has to deal with Putin from one major power to another. If you let Zelensky in the room, Zelensky's just going to talk like a chihuahua. He's just going to start barking and shit. And he's like, look, I'm trying to get shit done. I'm trying to negotiate, but you're over here barking and all that shit. You're just going to piss him off, and then I'm not going to be able to get shit done. It's like when you got two bulls in there, and you're going to let a little calf in there, and he's going to try to like deal with the two bulls. That's not going to work. And the biggest issue with this is Putin does not respect Zelensky. So Putin is just going to put up a wall and say, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to keep whatever. But he does respect Trump, and only because of not person to person, just because of power. Really? Who's he going to listen to? Zelensky? Damn right he's going to listen to fucking Trump. Because Trump's like, I'm going to block you here, I'm going to block you there, I'm going to do this. Because Trump can hurt Putin militarily. He can, but he can hurt him economically. Once we start actually, because Biden shut down energy production. Once we start cranking energy, and Trump goes over to say like the EU, who a bunch of them are buying energy from Russia. Trump says, hey, tell you what, I can give you the same, natural gas, whatever else, fuel, whatever. I can give it to you more, and I can give it to you at a lower rate, much lower rate. And then when you cut off Putin's purse strings, he does it. But what he does listen to is power, and without an economy, he's got no power. So if we drop in and say, and if Trump says says Putin, and says, look, I'll allow you to sell them, keep selling them energy, whatever. We'll break in a little bit. But if he says no, I'm gonna curb that market, and I'm gonna sell all the EU. I'm gonna sell the EU all their energy at half the price, because Putin has to keep it at a certain level because they can't produce it as fast or as efficiently. And then when you cut that off, and he's not selling energy and he's not making money, because their economy sure as hell ain't making fucking money from what? Manufacturing? No. It's from selling energy. So Putin's like, or Trump's like, all right, I'll jump in, sell the shit. EU's gonna buy from me. You're cut out of it. Putin's like, oh shit, now I don't have any money. So there's way more. There's many more ways that Trump can deal with Putin than militarily. So
I like this. A good discussion. It's good also to see different points of view. So
it is, and
I
especially
like
different countries.
I like it.
It's like giving Texas to Mexico and telling the citizens they don't have a say whatsoever. Damn right. That's right. We'll see your guess. Well, I'll put to you this, Rodri. Let me ask you this question real quick. What's happening now? Is anybody getting this thing any closer to a resolution? Is the UK doing it? Did Biden do it? Is Japan doing it? Who's bringing some kind of resolution? Right now, everybody we like say the U.S. and I think so for the UK, we've been supplying money and weapons to Ukraine for how long? Are we any more in any way towards ending this war whatsoever? No. Yeah, Dutch. The Russian people are suffering, but not the Russian government. That's the thing. And so if we cut his stuff out, now and part of that has to do with, so we can't live life for the Russian people. We can't live their life for them. So if we cripple the government, then the Russian people are going to have to rise up and take over the government. That's how it works. You have to, because otherwise, what? Putin's going to stay in there. Putin's going to do what he wants. He's going to tell everybody to go fuck off. Zelensky hasn't taken. Matter of fact, Zelensky has lost a footing in a lot of the places that they had gotten, and so forth and so on. So, yeah, but like I said though, Putin doesn't think Zelensky is worth the shit, so he is not gonna. So Putin is surely not going to listen to Zelensky. So Trump's going to go in there and say, "Look, I'm gonna show you enough respect as the big dog, to I'm gonna talk to you." So don't think that Trump isn't talking to Zelensky about what they're discussing and what they want to discuss. If you think that Zelensky is completely cut out of all this shit, then you're wrong. Because that's not how diplomacy works either. Now, he probably not let him in the room until he breaks down Putin for a little bit and says, till he greases the skids and says, okay, let me bring him in. Otherwise, it's just going to happen where the Middle East, where you try to get these people, the Palestinians and the Israelis and the Shiites and the freaking Sunnis, and you get them in the same room and they're like, fuck you, kiss my ass, I'm going to destroy your whole fucking family. I mean, they've been trying to get that Middle East stuff, and that doesn't work. It's like you got to get some skids greased first, then bring everybody else in to say, here's what we discussed. Oh, by the way, I'm going to talk to you in the back room so that I can discuss what we discussed. I can discuss it with the big dog. Because he doesn't think of Zelensky as anything. It's not. It's only through Trump's discussions that that Putin's even going to listen, if he listens at all. He's not going to listen to Zelensky in there. Zelensky said, I want this and that. And he's going to like, shut up. Because Zelensky doesn't have he can't he has no negotiating power.
Well, what does he have to offer?
Who?
Zelensky. He's got nothing to offer.
Nothing. That's why Trump's going in.
I wonder if there's going to be any loss of land rights, as far as like.
Well, I mean, Russia took when Obama was in. Russia took over Crimea, and they still have Crimea. I don't hear anybody bitching about getting Crimea back. Is it not reward? Appeasement did not work with Hitler. What do you think it will with Putin? What appeasement are you talking about? See, that's what I think. Trump's going in and saying, here's what needs to happen. And here's what, Zelensky. Well, Trump may think of a lot of things about Zelensky, but he's still the president of Ukraine. I understand that. But my point is, Zelensky has tried to talk to Putin. Putin's like, go screw yourself. And if you think that Trump's going to go in there and bring Zelensky with him, and that Putin is going to listen to Zelensky just because Trump's there, nah. But you know what? Here's what I'd say. How about Trump just backs out, and then how about Russia and Ukraine figure this shit out for themselves? If America, if U.S., if we have no value, if there's no value in what we're doing over there, then why are we spending my money? Here, let's get it. Why are you spending my money? All right? I'm the one that go out fucking working every fucking day. Why are you spending my money for Zelensky for weapons and freaking money? All right? I don't give a shit. We can just stay over here or whatever. If Ukraine gets taken over, it's not my fucking problem. Why do we give a shit?
Well, you did when you were Biden.
Well,
because you have interest over there.
You do. Boom. Thank you, Ed. Saying that Ukraine could never be part of NATO is an appeasement, surely.
Yeah, so I don't get that. What's the big deal with
bringing them in the UN?
Yeah,
because they were corrupt as shit.
Oh, are they still corrupt?
Well, the point is they until they can so here's also part of the problem, and obviously I understand this because they're in a war, but the Ukrainian as a whole, as a country, as a sovereign, whatever, is still completely unbalanced. It's chaos. So you got Zelensky, but you still have people, quote unquote, would say I would consider what is a parliament or whatever the Ukraine has, is still in flux. They're trying to establish who's part, because if you read and check and stuff over there, the powers within Ukraine itself are fighting with each other because they want to be more of, whatever. So there's different quote unquote, I guess we'll call them generals. Let's call them generals. For generals in certain regions of Ukraine that they're banging on their chest saying, I want, part of this, and I want, because they've been fighting over the money for years since people have been supplying them money. You got generals within Ukraine are fighting over that money, saying I should get more of this and this and the other. Okay? Now, if you look at it, and if you want to do some significant research, you'll see Zelensky's wife over in freaking
France?
No, shit. What's it, Switzerland or Sweden? What is it?
Switzerland.
Yeah. She's over there living up in a high-rise apartment shopping. They've been checking her. She's over there getting Louis Vuitton and this, that, and the other with. I don't know where she's getting that money. And then, oh, by the way, Zelensky's flying back and forth on a private jet going forward. So my point is this. The Ukrainian people are the ones suffering, and they're the ones that should be getting this. But to think of the Ukrainian government as somebody that can, quote unquote, be trusted, and you want to bring them to the table in dealing with a freaking nutbag like Putin, that's what I'm trying to say. I think Trump's trying to grease the skids, because I think if Zelensky goes in there, I think Zelensky's going to fuck it up. And then Putin's going to say, "Oh, well, screw you. I'm not doing it." And then at that point, the U.S. has to, or I don't think it has to, but if the U.S. gets involved, then we're in a pile of shit. So anyway, they have been fighting in the there's been shit going on left and right. So now, but exactly, Dutch. So the quote unquote Ukrainian government, if you want to call it that, is so unstable. Nobody knows. So if you bring them into the UN, they don't know who they're bringing. You know, it's like if you brought in. I know we're way over. I know if you brought in, let's just say it's like bringing in Iran. Let's say Iran into the UN. So you have the Shiites, you have the Sunnis. They're fighting. They've been killing each other for eons, right? Just because you're a different sect of Islam or of Islam than I am, I don't, whatever. They're only, unfortunately for us, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and they hate the heretics more than they hate each other. But they've been fighting with each other for freaking decades. So if you were to bring in Iran, who are you bringing in?
Gotcha.
Right? Now you could bring in the Ayatollah and whatever else, but a lot of these other factions don't look at them as the
I'll be.
You don't represent me. I'm representing myself. I'm the Shiite or whatever. So it's a very, very hard thing to navigate. But I think Trump's going along because Putin does respect him in whatever weird way. I don't know if respect's maybe the right word, but whatever it is. And so Trump's trying to lay the groundwork to then bring Zelensky in and then have them discuss. But if Zelensky's coming in like a little chihuahua and starts barking, Putin's just going to say, "Go F yourself. I'm not listening to you to shit you're saying." And I, as the U.S., don't want to back Zelensky to the point where we have to get involved militarily. I've already gone overseas. I've already fought for everybody fucking else, for fuck's sake. I don't want to keep doing it. We keep dying for everybody else. That sounded a little bit pissed, but I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off that we got to go fight everybody's fucking wars for him. And meanwhile, I got brothers that are, I had brothers, not biological brothers, but I had brothers that died overseas and stuff for some other fucking people who can't stand us and don't want us over there to fucking begin with. So handle your own shit. We'll pull all our troops, we'll pull all our fucking money, and everybody handles their own shit. And if you get taken over, as long as you don't come over my fucking yard, I don't care. Is that the way the world wants? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed. But I'm like, why is it still on us? And why is it that we're not doing things the way everybody else wants to do, but nobody else is sitting there jumping in?
I think that's why he wants to get out of the UN, right?
Who?
Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly why. We're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars to protect everybody else that's in there. And like I've said this many times, but yet Germany keeps buying power from Russia. Why are you buying power? Why are you in business with somebody who you're supposedly, quote unquote, scared of, that you're afraid is going to invade you? That's why you're part of the UN. Anyway. Oh, man, we went way the fuck over. Shit.
That's all right. But it was a good discussion.
That was probably me ranting, but
no.
But everybody wants to criticize, but nobody's got solutions. Who else is coming to Zelensky's aid to try to figure shit out? Nobody.
China's not.
Oh, shit. China.
All right. Well, Rodri.
I've said enough.
Rodri. Dutch, thank you for your input.
Yes.
This has been, as far as I'm concerned, an amazing discussion.
Oh, yeah. I agree
Absolutely.
with it.
So, yeah, we did go a little bit over.
By an hour.
That's okay. This was good. This is a good discussion. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you. Oh, what is this?
Just bring that up while you're talking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Spit that money back in Russia.
U.S. spent all that money to check Russia, not out of the kindness of their hearts. All right. Roger, you're to check Russia, really? No, that wasn't a check. That was Biden just giving shit to Zelensky. It wasn't to check Russia because Biden's scared of Russia, and Putin does not respect Biden at all. So, and besides, if you don't think we're checking Russia right now, I'm telling you, Russia ain't Russia. Let me put it this way: Russia is not wiping their nose that we don't know, and I'll just leave it at that. Everything except for assassinations, we're into.
Oh, boy. All right, guys.
Oh yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, yeah, we've kept Russia in check for like years. Yeah, and when we help out a country, most of the time, it's never. It's not the kindness of our heart. It's whether it's strategical or not. Location, geographical location, resources, whatever. Yeah. We got to get something out of there. Shit.
Wow.
But we do a lot of shitload of humanitarian aid. Again, more than any other country, probably more than most other countries in the world combined. So I'll put that out. And that does come from the American taxpayers again. Go ahead, Ed.
All right.
I'm done.
Guys, thank you so much. Woo. Little steamy.
It's truth. It's facts.
Agree. I agree. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. Awesome discussion. We need to do this again. 2 weeks. I like it. We're going to come up with something else that we can all discuss. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everyone here in the military, the police, the fire department, everyone that looks out for us to make sure that we are safe. Military, you guys, I've met some wonderful people at my job that have been involved with the military, and I tell you, every time I see someone that has a veteran's hat on or anything that signifies them as being in the military, I always thank them, and I always tell them, I appreciate what you did, and I'm glad you're home. So with that, thank you all again. I
always tell veterans that get out of line, you old fart, you're holding me up.
Oh, boy. So next, we have this one that we're going to work on. You should see it Wednesday of this week, maybe Thursday. So we're going to link over to this one on this podcast down here. Yeah, I'm discombobulated here, and I feel like I'm back in the 70s. Think we could do like some flashing lights or something?
We could. But you're doing this and stuff, almost like a kind of a ABBA song. Dancing Queen or something.
I like ABBA. I'm not a dancing queen. I'd be a tripping queen.
They're okay.
Wow. All right, guys.
Well, I'm not like an avid fan.
I think Gary might be the dancing queen. Ooh.
You're a brontosaurus burger.
Nice. Enjoy your Sunday coffee. Absolutely, Dutch. Rodri, thank you very much. Again, thank you for the discussion. And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to do this again. Everyone, have a great week. Be safe. Check us out.
Check us out. We'll see ya